What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness View podcast. I have on the show Mr. Mike Crownson. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate being here.
Of course. So let me just ask, and I always ask my guests on the show all the time, how did you get into the business that you're currently doing? What is Mike's story?
Man, where do I start? Well, I got to where I'm at by having some success and a lot of failures. But if I had to roll back and make this thing short, I used to be a personal trainer back in the day, born and raised in Alabama. I woke up one morning after 3 years of training, looked over, a solid gentleman with gray hair wearing a Smurf shirt and slides. And I was like, is that going to be me? And then I told myself it's not. So then I did a photo shoot actually 3 days out from a show, and the pics went viral on Facebook, of all places. Dating myself here. This was like in 2012. And ended up landing a book cover model, which then led me down a kind of like this fitness modeling path back in the Greg Plitt days, for those that who know that is.
Yes.
And throwing it old school, right?
Old school, bro. Holy cow.
So I ended up moving to New York City, just outside of it, to pursue fitness modeling. Realized that wasn't a job. That was basically an agency trying to make as much money off every person as possible. That didn't work out. Got a job at Shreds as the 9th employee. Again, dating like old school.
Wow.
Learned how to do some marketing. I was there for 2.5 years. I would say through the rise and fall. And then I ended up quitting, moved back to Alabama to go back to going back to online training that I had given up on whenever I went into fitness modeling. I made like 12 grand the first like 14 months of business. It was like brutal. So I was like, I got to get a job. So, especially in New York City.
Totally.
So when I quit, I went back to doing personal training. I was actually like also quit bodybuilding, also was getting jiu-jitsu, like tore a pec. And so like my life was like just changing in so many ways.
Yeah.
And so I like moved, broke up with the girlfriend I was with, quit bodybuilding, got into jiu-jitsu. So like everything changed. Realized when I come back, I had a meeting with a guy that is well off, and he said that you've made a grave mistake. You need to leave immediately before you just like get somebody pregnant and you're stuck here in Alabama. And so I took that to heart, moved to Huntington Beach, California. Within 6 months of moving back to Alabama, started a coffee company while I was out there with my ex-partner and ex-wife. And that process started rolling. I had the opportunity to start Rise Supplements with this current CEO and co-founder, along with Joey Swoll. So we started that back in 2017. I left Huntington Beach, moved to Dallas 6 months after being there. And then I basically had the Rise, my coffee company. I was also doing the personal training stuff, also personal training stuff for other people as well. And so I was always in the fitness space. Sold my portion of Rise, started a marketing agency, worked with a ton of different businesses along the way in the e-commerce space. End up selling my coffee company after doing collaboration with Dippin' Dots and with Fruity Pebbles. Did about 10 million total in sales, exited in late 2023, shut down the marketing agency for e-commerce, and went all in on what I'm currently doing now with my partner, Baker, which is arfunnel.io, which is acquisition retention funnel, where we build automated lead funnels for online fitness coaches. So like going back, helping the old me, and it's going really well. And really enjoying the process. They got a nice office and team in Dallas here. We have 10 stateside, 17 total. And we're signing up on average about 2 coaches a day currently. So it's been a wild ride, but that's also been a 15-year journey. If everybody thinks that overnight success is like in 15 minutes, it's not.
Right.
And I like to always put this out there too, is like, now the company makes well over 100,000 a month. It took me 10 years to make 100,000 a year. And so it's like, I wasn't 29 when I finally made six figures. And it's like the possibility of what you can do is endless. It just takes 10 years to become that guy.
Totally. Totally. Holy
Right.
cow.
It
Holy
takes a
cow.
long time to become that fit individual that stays fit. It takes a long time to build a business to where it's like it's almost impossible to fail.
Mhm.
Um, it takes a long time to become the thing that you're trying to master. Because if it was really that good, well, it wouldn't be that easy. So it's possible even for an old country boy like me.
Wow. Okay, guys. So that was the podcast. All the gems we just got. That was rocket fuel. Thanks for being on the show. No, I'm joking. Wow. Holy cow, dude. Talk about a mass redemption story with you sitting on the throne at the end.
I wouldn't say I'm
Wow.
at the throne, but we're definitely climbing up the steps. Um, because the throne for me is going to, I guess, just be, I guess, exited from this company with the eight figures that I want. That would
Wow.
be, but even then, I'm going to be like, well, time to do something new.
Where's the other mountain?
That's the
Let's go
bodybuilder
somewhere.
in me, and it's like, when you're
Right.
7% body fat with striations, it's like I'm fat because I'm not on stage. You know what I mean? Everybody feels that one. So,
Right. That's
you
so
know,
funny. It's like,
it's
oh
a,
man, I
it's a
got
journey.
it's a total journey. It's like, yeah, I got striations on my glutes. I want more. I want to be just see through at this point, you know? Like,
Yeah, that
holy
was me
cow.
for a long time, man. I got about 260 pounds whenever I worked at Shreds. Like it was like work, food, workout. Like that was it. Um,
Right.
I was on a mission to go pro. Everybody starts off like, I'm going to date myself. Dude, when I started lifting, I was like, man, I want to be sponsored by Muscle Tech, just like in free
Muscle tech.
supplements. I need some free nitro, some nitro sale or whatever it was.
Right, right. Some pump igniter.
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that.
Some
Holy
galactic.
cow. Shreds takes me back because I remember, so I lived outside of New York City for a while. I lived in Rockland County.
Okay, I was
Um,
in Jersey City.
oh, okay. Hello, neighbor. Um, Shreds was all over the place. All the gyms that I worked
Hmm.
in, Retro Fitness, um, all those.
I
Joey's Hole
worked out
was
at
a big
Retro.
one.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you worked
Out
out
in
in a retro?
North Bergen.
Yeah, no way. What? Stop it. I'm in North Carolina right now. I didn't think that that name would ever be uttered again, you know?
I don't know. I'm surprised I remembered it.
It's wild. Holy cow. I worked
Yeah.
in a retro for gosh, well over 10 years
Okay.
as a trainer, you
Hmm.
know. And one thing that's interesting as a trainer, here was a limiting belief that I had before I became independent. Started my own business, that kind of deal. And I feel like a lot of even independent trainers are in the same space. They feel as if this is a dead end job, that there's no
Hmm.
room to grow, that you might as well just get a normal job at this point because that's the safe route. And I believe that for many years until, I was forced to kind of like do my own thing
Hmm.
and then watch the garden blossom. What would you say to the trainer who maybe wants to start an online business and wants to get going? What are some things that you can say to them to maybe assist them shattering that self-doubt that they can't do it?
Yeah. So I would first state that being a trainer at a gym is a dead end job
Totally.
because even like there's no such thing as like a trainer that finds the success that collects a paycheck from somebody else.
Right.
And so you actually have to stop being a trainer and become an entrepreneur if you want to have the freedom of an entrepreneur,
Right.
right? So you got to leave the comfort zone. You got to get
Mhm.
outside that little bubble that where your paycheck comes twice a month and you have to start that transition. And it is difficult and scary, and you're going to suck at it. But I will say, as somebody that took 10 years to invest into finding help because, like, I got this, I can do this on my own.
Right, right.
Like, what are they going to teach me that's going to be any different?
Mm-hmm.
And now I find myself being like, wow, like you are such an idiot. Um, but it's like thinking that you're going to do it all on your own is like the same client that you talk to. That's like, I don't need a trainer. I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
I can figure it out. And all those things are true. That's the beautiful thing about all of this, right? Like anybody can lose weight. ChatGPT can tell you everything. You can literally like find a program and all you gotta do is just follow it. But that's the problem, is like following it is usually why you need the accountability of somebody to put you through that regiment, make you show up, teach you what discipline is. And the truth is that when it comes to a trainer, what they typically understand is how to coach people.
Yeah.
What they don't know how to do is how to sell people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're selling them on the idea of following the program. However, you're not selling them on the idea of investing, because if you work in a Globo gym, typically you're brought clients.
Right.
Right. So until you get really good at selling yourself, it becomes difficult. But the biggest problem I find that when trainers make the transition is that you think, well, okay, so I charge, like, let's say it's 75 an hour in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to charge 100 for the month online.
Uh-huh. Gotcha.
Everybody starts there.
Right.
And here's the truth about it, is that the person in person will pay like $1,500 a month.
Totally. Right.
For less.
Mm-hmm.
Than what you would give online. The difference is that what you're actually valuing is that if you're standing beside them, not your knowledge.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
But we can hire anybody for any hourly wage, which is why they pay you nothing as an in-person trainer, to stand beside somebody and say, do this.
Right.
Right. So that's actually not the value of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's the knowledge base in which you have, because two people standing in the room side by side, just because they're both here doesn't mean they should make the same money.
I totally agree with that. It's so true. I feel like, and you said something really important that resonated with me, because when I first got into this, when I was coming out of the gym space, and like you said, what are they going to teach me? I know every metric of working out and eccentric, concentric, blah, blah, blah. And then when I began, realizing that I was I didn't even know I was in sales, right? I was trying to get new clients. I'm like, well, yeah, I can make your biceps bigger by doing like 2-second eccentrics and 1-second concentric. Mary, how do you feel about that? Well, how much does it cost? You know what I'm saying? So wonderful. I love that answer you gave. What do you tell somebody, a trainer? How do you tell them, like, hey, somebody who doesn't realize that they're going into the sales business, like it's all about how you market yourself, how you sell yourself? Because I know a lot of crappy trainers that make a bajillion million dollars because they are master marketers.
Sure. Yeah, that's what we teach.
Exactly, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You have to know how to sell yourself. You got to know your value, right? Here's a good question. What would be something you would say to the trainer, that trying to explain to them what is the difference between isolating the emotion in a conversation with the individual prospect versus you're just selling the metrics of your program, like, oh, by the way, we have an app that does all this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I love that you said that, because we say all the time, you want to sell the emotions, not the metrics. And it's funny you use those two words. So emotions and not metrics is basically when you see somebody like myself, for example, saying, if you want to make $10,000 a month in your online coaching business, you attach what you do with that 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
We don't say, if you would like to get funnels and automations and 17 different workflows and a calendar system that has all these features to it, and then also be able to have the mobile app with it, it's like, what are you going to do with all that stuff?
Right.
So
right.
Understand that we're selling emotions over metrics. And this is what that looks like. Let's say that you need to lose 25 pounds. You're a dad of 2. What I'm not going to pitch to you is the programs. Like, so I'm going to give you basically 6 days a week. We're going to do 4 sets of 12. That's usually where we start with everything.
Right.
90-second rest periods. And then I'm going to build out your meal plan. The meal plan's probably going to have these different 5 protein sources, chicken and turkey and beef. It's like all you're actually describing is diet, sweat, and exercise. Like, I don't want any of that, which is why I need
Right.
to lose 25 pounds. So your program actually sounds miserable. But the other way I would work it was, so I know you said that you want to lose 25 pounds. And the reason that we want to do that is because, well, really, you just want to be a great example as a father figure for these 2 little ones who's growing up. And you want to be that super dad, because we talked about it also too, like you didn't have that growing up. And so you know how it made you feel about your dad when your uncle was in better shape, or when Johnny's dad was like the dad in the group, right? You want to be that guy. And so for us to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to build out a custom program, that meal plan that's going to fit you, but not only you, but also the wife and the kids, so they can be a part of this journey together. And so that you're not going to isolate yourself at dinner time. You'll still be able to enjoy time with them. So we're going to build that custom to fit, and we'll know more about it once the program gets going. As far as the workout program, I know you said you travel a lot with work, and I know that we want to try to make the very time efficient workout so that you can be sure that you can still pick up the kids, right, and spend that evening time with them. So we'll build out a custom workout program to fit not only like your schedule for the kids, but also your work schedule and the travel. And this might be custom each week, and that's okay, but we'll figure that out as we go. But the idea is that we want to become the person that you want to become, and I'm going to help you build a custom program to fit your lifestyle. Does that make sense?
Wow.
So I didn't
Masterclass.
say anything about what you're actually going to be receiving, but that it's going to be custom to fit you so that you can achieve ideal result, right? Emotions over metrics. When you start talking about your program, it's irrelevant. No one gives a crap about your program. I build out funnels for people. You know how many times I screen share and share what the funnel looks like? 0 times, right? I'm building on 18 different things that has like 47 different steps to it. And I don't even show you what it looks like, because the truth is that you don't need to understand the what's. What you need to understand is the why. And if you understand the why, then you're emotionally bought in, and the what's will figure themselves out. And so that's the biggest thing when it comes to the selling of it. But I'm gonna touch on pricing for a second, and another emotional characteristic here. If it doesn't hurt, you will not adhere. And so when you do not charge enough money, people don't adhere to the program. And when they don't adhere to the program, guess whose fault it is? It's yours. It's never my fault. Because I'm not going to say I suck. I'm going to say you suck. And so I don't follow the program. I don't see results, which means you don't get testimonials. You don't get any marketing material. And then you get a bad word of mouth. So because you charge too little of money, you don't get anything in return. But here's another piece that people don't talk about, and I think is so massive. And he said, if you charged $100 a month, and that's what that person can afford, and you attract what you put out. And so if you only can afford $100 a month, can your friends afford more than that? Probably not, because we are our circles. But if you charge $500 a month, $1,000 a month, who are their friends? Do they drive Corollas or Mercedes?
Right.
So what word of mouth are you actually getting?
Mm-hmm.
And so you wonder why people, how can they get so much money? It's well, because they're fishing in a different pond, right? Typically what happens is that you want to try to, if people think I'm going to fish in the biggest pond, which means I'm going to help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't want to help everybody. I want to help very specific individuals. And those particular fish probably stay in one particular spot of the ocean or the pond. Typically, it's not where all types of fish are just equally spread out through the ocean. Like, that's not the case. There are honey pots of particular types of fish in different regions of the world, and each of them have different values and bring different things to the table. But if I'm looking for tuna, I'm not going to go out where snapper are and thinking like, I'm just going to randomly find one here. It's like, no, you're probably going to catch a snapper because that's where we're fishing. And that's what they're known to be. $100 client, you're over here in the snapper. But you want the tuna? We got to go find the tuna hole. And when you find one, odds are you'll probably find more like it. So, but it all starts with your pricing. And I think that's so important when people get started in any business. Your price sets the standard for the type of clients that you're going to get.
Wow. Wow. So that was a masterclass in itself. You know what I'm saying? That was like, think of like, that's like 15 years of like wisdom down the line, because a lot of things you said, it took me years to understand, books to
Same.
read, right? It's just like, oh, like you said, it wasn't an overnight success.
It's not.
It's not. And it's wonderful what you said. And that was probably one of the first things I ever learned, going independent is I'll never forget. So one of my good friends, Kaiser from Top Level Trainer, he taught me this one lesson. He said this: the clients that you typically charge the least, they're going to be the biggest pains in the butts.
Yeah.
Why? They're price adhesive. They're like, well, what's the price? Oh, well, if the price is this month, they're going to be the most needy. They're going to give you the most problems. And they're, like you said, they're not going to adhere, but the clients that you charge the maximum, they're going to be the ones that will be like, hey, I'm here 3 days a week, plus I'm working out on my own, plus I'm adhering to your plan online. What else can I do? They're going to be proactive clients. And that's like the dream for the trainer. You want the proactive client, right? I find a lot of the trainers that are just jumping into the fray, they have a problem because they don't know their self-worth. And they're so used to being in a big box gym that they're like, oh, well, they charged me $12 an hour. True story. When I was at Retro, oh my gosh, I worked for a company called EFT. $12 an hour.
I remember EFT. Is that with
Oh,
Mike?
yeah, that's with Mike. Oh my God. Have you met Mike?
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
So
He used to come.
I was the reason that Shreds was introduced into the personal training world, because I used to be a trainer that used to sell Shreds to my clients, and I would buy them wholesale, and they're like, who's this guy ordering all these product? And I was
Right.
like, I'm a trainer. And then when they hired me, I told them why this wasn't going to work, and it ended up not working. Here, something to consider for my trainers out there.
Totally.
Every single person has X amount of disposable income. Okay. Training is not cheap in person. And so if the trainer gets paid more money for working an hour of training than they do selling a supplement that is equally the same price, the price per hour, which one would you sell? I'm going to sell my time. I would pick and choose clients in which I would sell product to because I wanted the cash versus the commission. And so I told them, I was like, hey, this isn't going to work like you think, because they're going to pick and choose what they're going to purchase, training or supplements. And the trainer isn't going to push the supplements because they get paid more from the training. Like, this isn't Equinox. This is Retro Fitness. This is a $30 gym, not a $130 gym. Know your clientele.
Right. That's exactly what happened.
That's
exactly what happened.
I knew it was going to happen before it happened.
Holy cow. It's so funny. What a closure conversation for me. Because that's exactly what happened. I'll never forget. And I didn't say these exact words, but it was something along the lines of, hey, I want my time because that's where I'm going to make the most money. I'm not going to sell this is Retro. They're gonna go get smoothies at the front desk. They're not gonna buy the creatine monohydrate. You know what I'm saying?
And the clients that did purchase, the ones you pushed it on because you knew they had the money.
Right. Right. Let me ask you a really important question.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? Because I have my own thoughts. What I feel like a lot of trainers, they're so focused on getting that initial purchase on the front end, right? Like once they're getting their momentum going, they're like, I just want a gazillion dollars up front. You know what I'm saying?
A PIF, right? A paid in full.
Paid in full, right? Total paid in full. They're like locked into it, but then they lose the client in a month, right? How, what is your opinion on the lifetime value of the client, even if they get the money on the back end,
Yep.
right? Versus the front end. What is your thoughts on that type of process?
So I talk about this all the time. Had a call with a coach yesterday doing 30 a month, and they have 6,000 reoccurring, which means that based on the employees in which they have, they do not have enough reoccurring money to cover the business expenses, which means on the first of every month, you're doing 30 grand a month and you stress. I thought the point of making 30 grand a month was like not to stress, right? Now, the question becomes is, would you rather do 30 this month and then 5 the next month? Or would you take 12 consistently? Right? Like those are the things that we start to discuss, because if you're the person that struggles with the idea of entrepreneurship in the first place, you want stability.
Right.
Well, you can't create stability if you don't create stability. And so what happens is that, and this is what I always suggest, if you're brand new, do the PIFs. The problem is that if you don't ask, you do not receive. So if you don't ask for $1,500 for 6 months, guess what you're not going to get? And then when people keep saying no to $250, $300 a month, you're going to lower the price. But the problem is that when you never get somebody to pay you $1,500, you never believe that you can do it. So I think it's really important in the teaching process that you ask for those big numbers. And I'll tell you a great example. In 2017, I went to doing phone sales for Guy Cisternino and John Della Rosa and David Henry.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I sold somebody to work with Guy at, it was a $1,500 or $2,800 for the year. So 15 for 6 months, it was like 28 for the year. Somebody's like, I'll do the full year. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm shaking because I'm like collecting, I'm like $2,800. And I'm just like, can't believe it. But like, you know, the confidence boost that I got, like I can sell everybody now.
Totally.
$300, not a problem.
Totally.
But when 300 is your top, you're like, oh man, like I don't know what they're going to say. So you learn that, but you also understand price anchoring as well, which I always love to talk about too, but I'll get back to that. So you create PIFs to build confidence and get some influx of cash into the business. Don't be the guy that goes and blows it all, because you need that money, because you got to build the security blanket for yourself. And I always like to say, like, get up to where you got 10 grand in your bank account. Then you can like start to play at zero, because there's a difference between every 2 weeks and running your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So get a nest egg, a goose egg inside your account. And it takes discipline, and it's not going to happen in a month, but collect the money, pay the bills, try to get a goose egg up. Even when you're like closing PIFs at the 6 month mark, right? Like $1,500, a lot of people aren't going to be able to close it, or not. They're not going to be able to afford it. That's when you then would go down to a 300 and sell that monthly. So the reoccurring will naturally happen. I think a lot of people make the mistake is when they take the Affirm route.
Right.
Affirm, for those that don't know, is like a Klarna, right? To where you get all the money up front and then the client will then pay it over time. But here's the problem. When you sell a 3 month, 4 month, 5 month, 6 month on that, your client is going to actually, on average, stay longer usually than the 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when they pay $1,500 now, and then they break that out over like $187 over the next 18 months, in 6 months, they're not going to get another loan. So you can't get the resell. So you'd be better off collecting $300 a month, and you be the bank instead of getting the $1,500 up front. You win anyway because you make an extra $300.
Mm-hmm. But
now it just continues to come out versus the client leaving because they can't afford to keep paying you. The truth is they can pay 187 or 200. They can pay 300. And if they can't, then you need to learn to say no in time.
Mm-hmm.
You take what you can in the beginning, and then you learn to say no. Great example. Like I fired, I didn't say I fired. Let me rephrase that. I had a client that signed up on a Thursday, demanded to be onboarding by Monday. That's not how the system works. And I was like,
Right.
hey man, I'd be happy to refund you. The expectation was set. Like, and where that comes from is like, I don't want your money if you're going to be
Right.
a cancer in my culture. I
Mhm.
don't need your money, knock on wood. I've built a recurring business model.
Ooh. Ooh.
And so that allows you to show up in a way that makes decisions best for you. But in the beginning, you take the odd in jobs, you take the clients you don't want to work with
Right.
because you need the money. And so you start to do those things. But as business grows, your nose should also grow as well. But when it comes down to building the reoccurring, I think it's so important because you show up in a different way.
Mhm.
When you wake up and there's already transactions and there's money in your account, like that's nice,
Yeah.
right? That makes you show
Mhm.
up in a whole different way. And the difference is the difference between abundancy and scarcity.
Mhm.
Because today I've got to get clients and make money versus today I get the posts and I get to try to get leads. A lot of people think, all right, so I'm gonna post online and I'm gonna get some clients. And what's the first thing that you try to do? I'm looking for 5 people.
I hate that. Oh my gosh.
Right. So you're trying to get people to pay you, and that's from a scarcity mindset versus the idea of like, I'm going to post valuable content. I'm going to give away stuff for free. I'm going to set somebody's macros for free. And then now you show up with helping people in exchange for a telephone number so that you can have a conversation because you can't have a client without a lead. So stop trying to get clients and just focus on getting leads.
Mhm.
Right. So there's like a lot of, that's a whole nother animal, but
Totally.
go back to the price anchoring for a sec. I love
Sure.
this analogy. You go to the car dealership, right? I'll whip up to Chevrolet.
Uh-huh.
I pull in and I walk up and like, what are you looking for? I'm like, man, I'm looking for a black SUV. Wife's wanting one murdered out with the peanut butter inside.
Got
I
it.
got you. I got you. Brand new 2025, decked out Escalade, murdered out. Walk
Mhm.
over there. It's like $160. It's like,
Yeah.
man, that thing is awesome. But bro, I can't afford 160. Like I just, well, what do you like about it? Dude, I like that it's black. I like the black rims. I like the peanut butter tan interior. Like this is exactly what I'm wanting. And the wife is like over here just swooning.
Right. Right.
I got you. Let me go show you this Trailblazer we got.
Mhm.
It's only 60. Only? Dang, man,
Oh,
we came to the lot trying to spend 45.
yeah.
But now it's only 60 in comparison to the 160
Mhm.
because we price anchored. Because the truth is that if I went and showed you directly to the Trailblazer at 60, you'd be like, it's more money than I got.
Mhm.
And then you have to be like, well, let me show you the Envoy.
I see
It's
what you
like
did there.
35, right? So wherever you set the anchor at is you get to work down from there. You're not going to go up.
Mhm.
Not unless it's like 45 and then you're like, well, for 52 you can get all these other features. Like you can't create this large difference. So whenever you come out with pricing, don't say I have the monthly option and the 6-month option. Say you have a 6-month option and then wait for them to say no, then you go down. But if you don't ask, you don't receive. We've all
Right.
heard the jokes at the bar, right? But like walk in, but like, well, I'd have gave you it for free. I'm like, shit, I should ask for more.
I should have just asked for more. Right.
Right. And so it's that same concept. If you don't ask, you don't receive.
Totally. Holy cow, man. That's awesome. I feel like so many trainers are just they're like, I start off with the least amount of money possible. They're like, oh well, we can do this online training thing. Let me sell you all the metrics on it for, $99 a month. And then
Yeah.
they start in getting all these bugs in the system. They start getting people who don't want it. But man, I love what you said there. Hey, I got this $3,000 program right here, all the bells and whistles. Ah, man, I really, really can't afford that. What do you like about it? Well, I love the fact that you're going to customize a diet plan for me, a workout plan for me, and this and that. Well, hold on a minute. We got something like this. It's our 3-month option or 6-month option. and it's only for 700 instead of 3,000. Oh, and you were going to go in there trying to spend 100 when realize you didn't even give him that option yet. Bang, bada bing, bada boom.
I like to call it
Ka-ching.
the concierge service, to where it's like it's all the bells and whistles. Realistically, I don't want you to buy it anyway because it's way more work than I want to put in.
Right.
Because now I got to give away all these calls and all this stuff, and like I'm on 24/7 access. But the truth is that you price anchor it so that if they take it, cool, but that's not really what I'm trying to sell. I'm trying to get you to buy this item.
Totally.
And so that's where if you look at the movie, like a movie theater or something like that, wherever, and typically there's 3 tiers. I don't like 3 because what you're selling is so customized that it's not as easy as a large, medium, and small.
Right.
Because usually you're pulling pieces out and they get confusing. And so I also heard another thing that said, if I came to you and said, hey, I've got these 2 drinks right here, which one you want? You're going to say, I'll take this one. Right. Cool. If I brought you 3, you'd be like,
yeah.
Versus if I said, okay, so I brought you these 2 and you're like, I'll take this one. Great. And then I bring up the other one. And I was like, which one of these you want? And you're like, this one. I'm like, okay, that was easy. So you want to make everything binary as much as possible to where it's like, you want this or that,
right?
A or B. If you only give one option, then what's the binary answer? Yes or no.
Right.
I don't want a yes or no. I want a yes or yes.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to give them too many options. You don't want to give them too many options. I totally agree with that.
And so when you say like, hey man, like this is how much the shaker cup is. Do you want it? Yes or no? They're like, no is an option. Versus I'm like, you want this or this? They're like, I'll take the tea. Because no is option C. They have to be proactive and say that.
Right.
You want to close more people? Stop telling them yes or no, or asking them for yes or no. You just simply say, which one do you want? This one or that one? And then they have to go, neither.
Right. They have to say, I'm giving up on my goal.
Right. I choose not to do either.
Right.
And so for those that like control the sales conversation, which the way you control the sales conversation actually is saying less than the other person, ask questions until they sell themselves, but not giving them the option to say no. And I think that's probably like the best sales advice I could give when it comes to actual closing.
That's so cool because that's something that, again, Kaiser from Top Level Trainer, he has this method that's incredible. You ask these 5 questions, and the 5 questions are typically more than just 5 questions. But the bait of the conversation is you're getting them to expose weak points, right? You're getting them to sell the program back to you. So by the time they've admitted that they want to lose quadrillion pounds, they want a new marriage, and they want to deadlift 600 pounds by next month, you hand them the price, and like you said, well, which one you want to do? They have to say then, if they cannot afford it, this goal's not important to me. You know what I'm saying? I love the way you break that down. Let me ask you this question because you're a wealth of knowledge. This is incredible. I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Yeah.
You know, what I want to know is there's a lot of coaches on the online space, right? They have this notion they're selling these entrepreneurs on, hey, you can make $100,000 a month in 6 months with our coaching program, this and that, and I feel like every single, and this is just my opinion, and I feel like every single one is trying to sell this dream of speed. You said in the beginning that it took you 15 years. It was not an overnight success. What is, in your opinion, growing a garden slowly versus growing too fast? What is your opinion on that?
I think the biggest difference is reoccurring versus piffs.
Okay.
The faster it goes up, the faster it goes down.
Gotcha.
So oftentimes when it depends on who you're speaking to, right? You hear a lot of coaches talk about get to your first 10K a month. That's for the start out trainer. Here's somebody talking about, this client was done 30K, 40K, 50K. He's actually trying to attract in the person that's doing 10 to 15 a month. And so the person that's starting out new is like, oh my God, like 50 grand. Like you're not getting on the phone with them. They're going to disqualify you because you don't make enough income to afford their program, because something is not expensive. It's just, can you afford the value?
Sure.
I've paid $10,000 for one day of education and training that I had to pay to fly out to California.
Right.
And somebody goes, 10 grand. Like I wouldn't pay that for a year of mentorship.
Right.
That's okay. Right. I couldn't do that at one point either. But the difference now is that what's the expectation that you're trying to get out of it?
Right.
Because for me, and I find this in everything that I do, and I hope that there's one thing that you get from this podcast, and it's, what's the one sentence that changed the trajectory of where I was going? The one sentence. Maybe it's like, if it doesn't hurt, they don't adhere. And that changes your life and the trajectory where you're going over the next 6 months, because you decide today is the day I'm going to raise my prices and charge my worth. It wasn't all the other stuff that was also equally as beneficial to other people. But it's like, what's the one sentence? So for me, it's that 10 grand day. Like I'm looking for one sentence it's going to make me make 10 grand that month, and then 100 grand over the next 6 months. And so it's, what's the value in which you're finding? And so when somebody charges $500 for a program, $5,000 for a program, $25,000 for a program, that's not to be sold to the same person. It's based on where the business is at, because like I can afford to pay a lot more money for an employee than I could 2 years ago. And
right.
But the person's saying the same thing.
Right.
But to then it wasn't worth it, to now it is worth it.
Right.
Because my problems become more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the coach that's starting out, it's don't go buy the most expensive thing.
Yeah.
But also like learn throughout the process through ads. Like most people don't show up with the idea of, why is this ad in front of me versus what the ad is saying.
Right. Right.
Like I want you to break down a video and be like, what was the hook?
Mm-hmm.
Why was I drawn into that? What did they say? What, like, understand the marketing, because that's actually what all business coaches are trying to teach you to do in sales, is how do you market yourself better? My entire company started off of one sentence. If you're using link trees and applications as the main call to action in your bio, stop.
Right.
You're only converting 3% of your traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And every single coach has an application. They're going, what?
No way.
And then it goes into like, let me explain. And then it goes to a VSL.
Gotcha.
I didn't say anything about using a funnel in the ad. It was, how do I track my ideal client? What's the pain point that my client's working with, right? We work with coaches. And so other things you think about, like, for example, like this hat, we send out to every single coach that signs up with us. You cannot buy it, meaning that if you see this hat on the internet, they're our client.
Right.
And now they're like starting to circulate. And so it's like you start to learn the branding pieces that get you out there to attract your ideal client. So from my perspective, it's like we work with coaches. I'm not a coach, but what does my client want? They like a hat that says that they're a coach, because it helps them get identified with their ideal audience.
Totally. Totally.
Right. So it's like the little things make the difference. And when you join a program, what it is you're trying to learn.
Right.
However, I'm also a big advocate that I'm funnel first, coaching second. And so if the coach that I hire doesn't teach me the same things that they're doing inside their business to grow it, why not?
Right.
So the business coach that you click through the ad where they give you the free sales script, but they don't teach you how to create free lead magnets that same way.
Right.
It's like, so you're not going to teach me how you sold me?
Correct. Gotcha.
We run the opposite. I'm going to give you, we give like carbon copies of what it is we do, because if you got here, then why wouldn't you think your ideal client would show up in front of you?
Right. Right.
So It's kind of like that same concept. And one thing it's also the same for people that sell like social growth, which to me is like the easiest thing to sell.
Sure.
It's the hardest thing to master, but the easiest thing to sell because
Wow.
everybody wants it.
Right.
Everybody
Everybody
wants to
wants
grow
it.
on IG. So that content gets shared and liked all the time because people want that. And then that's actually the content that grows. It's like,
Yeah, it's like, huh?
but there's a lot of great tips and tricks that you can put into it. But the truth is that for any type of social media, any type of business, like, hey man, like I want you to run your business like you do your fitness.
Right.
You get 1% better every day.
Love that.
Here's the actual truth. Fitness coaches and trainers and online coaches don't show up for their business like they do their fitness.
Ooh.
Every
Ooh.
day we show up with the
Holy
idea
cow.
in the gym of like, I'm here to fail and get better. I don't care what I look like during the squat. I'm going to like grunt and struggle and I'm going to fail.
Totally.
My business, oh, that video is not perfect, so I'm not going to use it.
Right.
So you
Right.
do nothing. Because here's the problem is that when you become a coach, you are the leader in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
You're the authority figure. So when you post the video that makes you not look like the ultimate authority, you think that you look subpar or silly or not the guy anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't do anything.
Right.
Because I went from up here to now I'm going to online business and I'm here and I don't like it. So I'd rather just not do it.
Totally. They lose their identity in that.
Yes. And so you have to suck before you get better, just like you did in your squats. But you
Mm-hmm.
showed up every single week. If you're like me, like your squats still sucks. You know what I mean? Um, but that's been the biggest difference is I find is that if you'll just show up every day with the intentional of just trying to suck, you get really good.
I think that's so important that you say that, bro, because you have to. You have to show up like that. And it's like, if you really want anything to improve, you have to show up. And you're going to suck in the beginning. I think everyone's ego is in the way. You know, even mine. Oh my gosh, my ego gets in the way every day. Oh, I'm not doing this. Oh, well, this will. George over there is making $1 bajillion. Why aren't I like George? I might as well quit. But we can't do that. We got to suck, suck, suck until we kind of don't suck, but then we kind of realize we do suck. And then we keep going. And then we look behind us and we're like, oh my gosh, look at how far I've come. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? I
Mm-hmm.
totally understand that. I want to respect your time. I love this whole conversation
Yeah,
that we're
dude.
having.
It's been great.
It's been awesome. I want to ask you a question. So I see testimonial after testimonial on your coaching service. Tell me about AR Funnel. What is
So
what? Yeah, tell me about it.
acquisition retention funnel. We help online coaches acquire more leads and clients and retain them longer. How we do that is setting up 3 major funnels for coaches. We set up 18, but the 3 major ones: automated lead funnels, and then automated application funnels, and then automated onboarding funnels. Different coaches have different problems. Most people do not have a social media problem. Most of them have a funnel problem. And what I mean by that is how many coaches have an application in their bio that never gets clicked. No one's going to fill out an application first and foremost unless you are ready to buy. I apply before I buy. I don't fill an application for an apartment and then go check it out.
Right.
I do everything, then apply to buy. And that's why you have such a high close rate on applications. If you get an application, you typically close them. And it ain't because you're a kick-ass closer, because you haven't had 1,000 sales calls. It's because they want to purchase. It's just how much is it? I know this is the process. So I view applications as the 3% rule because I come from the e-commerce world, right? I've been a part of over 100 different fitness businesses. And I happily can say that being a part of brands that have done 9 figures, that's a really cool thing. But it's all just numbers and data. And the data states that the average website converts at 3%. You know how much this is? You know what it weighs, how many ounces are in it, when it ships, you know, everything that you need to know. 3% of people purchase. Now, the pop-up on the website, that gives you 15% off in exchange for name, number, and email, that has a 30 to 35% conversion rate. Oh, by the way, the 3% still includes all those people that got the 15% code.
Oh.
E-commerce brands spend tens of thousands of dollars a month trying to optimize a product page to try to get it to a 4%. And they spend tens and hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars on ads to get traffic to the site. You're a coach that, let's say you're doing $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month, and you've been in it for 2 years now. You're like in the process, your application's there. If you're the coach that says, if I can just talk to them, I can sell them. Why are you trying to get people to apply? Why don't you just have more conversations?
Facts.
So what we do is focus on having conversations. So what can I give away for free to start a conversation? So we build out these automated lead funnels to where we're going to give away free value to get that 30 to 35% conversion rate opt-in. In exchange for name, number, and email, we're going to have an automation that starts a conversation and then picks up. So what we're essentially doing is teaching people to get leads, not clients, because we need to understand one important thing. A lead to client formula.
Got it.
If you close 50% of the calls you're on, you need 2 calls to get 1 client. If it takes 10 telephone numbers for you to have 10 conversations so that you get 2 people to book a call for you to get 1 client, do you need to show up today thinking I need to get 1 client? Or do you show up today thinking I need to get 10 people's telephone numbers? What can I give away for free to get those?
Wow. Wow.
So now you show up with this, like, who can I help today for free? Because I know the maths.
Right.
It's going to pan out. There's a conversion rate on everything. But if you don't know your numbers, then you don't know your business.
Gotcha.
And so now we show up like, hey, I'm going to set 10 people's macros for free today. I know that's going to give me a client. It's at least going to give me a few conversations to talk about why they wanted their macro set in the first place, or a few phone calls that we can talk about. Let me just walk you through your numbers so that you can understand what to do with them.
Totally.
But it all started with me saying, how can I help you today?
Right.
And so we built out basically automations to help that process. The people that are crushing it, getting tons of applications in their business because you got a nice social media following or something goes viral. Yeah. But then you have to manually reach out to them all via email, which is absolute trash. For the average open rate of 20% with a 2% click rate, while 97% of text messages are read within the first 5 minutes with a 77% response rate in the first 14 minutes, while 14% of people that purchased a product after a text message had no intent of purchasing in the first place.
Holy cow, how did you memorize that? That's incredible.
Because I just made a post on it 3 days ago.
There you go. I was like, damn, you know your numbers, bro. That is awesome.
You got to know your numbers or you don't have a business. But understanding the psychology of meeting your lead where they're at versus where you want them to be. I mean, let's be real for a second. What percentage of the population is overweight? And so what's the number one thing attached to fitness? Insecurity. If you got abs, you're the weird one.
Right.
And so now we think that people just are going to reach out to us. Like, no, like people don't reach out to the weirdos.
Right.
And they definitely don't reach out to the ones that their biggest insecurities attached to.
Exactly. Good point.
And so here you are saying like, I'm looking for 5 people. And it's like, no one's going to step up.
Right.
Because those people are dedicated, motivated, hardworking, and disciplined. Guess what? They don't need you.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Wow.
So we got to meet the lead where they're at. It's much easier to get somebody to run a marathon for the first time if you do it with them, not yell at them from the finish line.
Right.
And so when we have these conversations, we want to have the gratitude go down the ladder because insecurity goes up the ladder. So we start the conversations instead of sitting back and trying to take orders like McDonald's because you ain't there yet. You ain't got that branding.
Totally.
And so it's like teaching all this psychology of like where your leads are at, what's their mindset, how can you help them get across that line because they keep pushing it and keep pushing it and keep pushing it off. I'm like, I'll reach out when, and that's why it's always on New Year's. But how many people would actually start a diet in October if you reached out to them first versus them reaching out to you on New Year's?
Right.
But they would, how can we reach out to them? Man, I'm going to let you join my Facebook group for free. I'm going to talk about the 3 reasons why women gain weight at 6 o'clock
Right.
on Tuesday, but you just got to give me your name, number, and email before you can enter it. And then
Free
I'm going to be
stuff.
like, hey, man, thanks for coming into the group. A million different ways to skin this. But the idea, though, is conversations over applications, having these different conversations with people, trying to get them to move across the finish line. For those coaches that say, man, if I can just talk to them, I can sell them. And all this is really just me talking from a 30,000 foot view, but we build the funnels that make that thing happen. Funnel first, coach for free.
I love that. I love that. Love that. I just wanted to touch on one thing that you said. Conversations. It's so fundamental. And I think fundamentals are sexy. I think like in exercise and in selling and in business, fundamentals stay no matter what.
Always.
Business is all about relationships with people. One of the best lessons I ever learned. And client conversations, even from a real world perspective, right? In Fitness 3, we're brick and mortar, so we talk to people. We get the most clients, not because we said, hey, we need 5 people who want to do 5 backflips and eat taco, whatever. Never works. It does not work. We've tried it. Guess what? Nothing. You know how to know it did work? Hey, Sally, how you doing today? How's the kids? Blah, blah, blah. What do you do for a living? Oh, well, I walk dogs for a living, but what do you do? Oh, well, I'm the owner and operator of, you know what I'm saying? And we do this and that. Oh, I got to lose weight. Bingo. Now we're going to have a conversation. And that is, and I want to say in my business that it's been alive, 95% of all our customers have come from taking the time out, building rapport, gardening and nurturing the leads and relationships.
Right.
And having those conversations, because guess what? My value is not based on the money. My value is based upon what I can do for you, because I genuinely love you. I genuinely want you to change. And guess what? The money is a symptom of what it is. And I want you to recognize that it's not the money, it's the value I bring to the table. So I love the fact that the AR funnel is all about these conversations, giving value to somebody versus I want to manipulate you and try to get you to think a certain way. No, honey, you're in the ride or you're not. You know what I'm saying? I absolutely, absolutely love that. Mike, one last question for you. So I did a little digging on you, right?
Okay.
And you mentioned it in the beginning. Now I'm a New Yorker to the T.
Yeah.
Love myself a little coffee.
Okay.
Question for you. This is hit or miss. I ask everybody this. How do you feel about chock full of nuts coffee?
Probably the same as I feel with as Folgers or Maxwell or another massive publicized brand.
Give it to me. Tell me.
Coffee is, man, I was in the industry for 6 years.
Right.
Okay? I've sold like 200,000 pounds of coffee.
Holy cow.
So much so that like I can just rattle off so many statistics, some stuff. But with coffee, no one likes it. Let me explain. Coffee doesn't taste good.
No.
It doesn't taste good because if it did, you can give it to a 6th grader. And they'd be like, this is amazing. But it has an acquired taste. Now, with an acquired taste, you have loyalty.
I love this. Go on.
You can't take somebody from Folgers and give them Maxwell and be like, I'm going to switch. It's like, no, you ain't. Papa John is going to stay drinking Folgers. And so the biggest difference is here is understanding what it is you're currently selling. So like we used to sell to Starbucks drinking, yoga pen wearing millennials. So much so that our pumpkin spice was called Basic AF. Right? If you sell to everybody, you sell to no one. So I didn't have to tell you what Heather's name was, but you pictured her right over in the corner. Right?
Totally.
And so understanding that, it's like we knew we weren't going to convert people that drank what you just put up. Right. Because that person ain't converting.
Ain't happening.
Like, yeah, they're loyal. They still shop at Walmart. So the understanding your audience is like so important. But I also say that because it doesn't taste good, there are a lot of other things that don't as well. Whiskey doesn't taste good. IPAs don't taste good. Tobacco don't taste good. Wine doesn't taste good. Apparently, all the things that don't taste good have this really expensive employee that tells you how great things are supposed to be
Right.
because they got to convince you that it's worth the money in which they're charging, like a sommelier, for example. And so coffee goes into that category of like artisan, special,
Right.
whatnot. But yeah, I drink like 1 cup a day, max 2. And I use like cream, or I'll put something in it because, well, it just doesn't taste good.
Wow. All right, yo. I thought we were friends. I never felt so attacked in my life. Holy cow. You're right. I shop at Walmart. I got this brand from Walmart. And you want to know something, Mike? I ain't having Folgers. Ever. I'm sticking with chock full of nuts.
Yeah. No, the funniest thing about that is that coffee is the second largest commodity in the world underneath oil.
Wow.
And so it has the most competition out of any products in the world. It's the only thing in the grocery store that has its entire aisle.
Wow.
Okay.
It's true. That is true.
And so if you think I'm going to start a coffee company, don't do it. Trust me, don't do it.
Bad idea.
You're talking about, you're arguing over pennies for margins, right?
Right.
But I always say this is like, in the supplement world, I always say like, man, I wish like First Form or a company like that was my competition. Like I can name off $10 billion businesses, right?
Right.
And so like a great example here, and I'll leave you with this statistic.
Sure.
How many Starbucks locations do you think there are in the world?
I got to go with a lot of Starbucks locations.
37,000, give or take, last time I checked.
Okay.
How many are in the United States?
30,000.
7.
Stop.
It's probably like 8 or 9 at this point, but yeah, it's like 20. It's less than 25% of their global market.
That's insane.
Think about that for competition for a second.
Holy cow.
Yeah, don't get in the coffee.
I'm not. Where's the supplement business? I'm going to start that. That's what we're going to do. Yeah. Holy cow. Mike, thank you so much for being on the show. This was educational for me. This is going to be educational for everybody else. Is there anything that you want to say, any final words to maybe a potential somebody who's looking for a coach, somebody who's looking to get services from a coach to start their business?
Yeah, I'm not here to sell myself by any means. I'm here to encourage people to take action. If you don't take action, nothing's going to happen. You can keep talking about it, but if you don't do anything about it, it's useless. Wishing is, wishing is nothing more than positively complaining.
There you go.
So if you don't have a plan and you're not trying to create a plan, you actually don't want it. You're wishing for it, which just means that you're just complaining that you don't have it, because if you wanted it, you'd work towards it. So take some action.
I love that. Wow. Well, everybody, where can everybody find you?
Mike_Crownson on Instagram. It's the #1 platform that I use. You'll be able to see pinned posts, kind of learn what it is that we do, but Mike_Crownson.
Awesome. Everybody go check out Mike. I'm going to link all his stuff in the description. But you guys know the deal. Live lean and stay happy.